Hey everyone, it's Wednesday, the 3rd of November. The time is 11:45 p.m. and the temperature is 7 degrees. We're in an area called Tikkurila in eastern Vantaa, Vantaa being the main city in this area. We're about 16 kilometers north of Helsinki city center here. And I'm starting from an area called the Flower Field buildings. It's old buildings here, built in the 60s. There are about 7,300 residents in Tikkurila. Vantaa is a larger area, part of the sort of metropolitan area of Helsinki as well. And that's closer to 2,000 and 40,000 residents. And these buildings are sort of very traditional, kind of a start of this residential area. Now you have a lot of building work going on here and a lot of newer buildings here that have just sort of come up in the the last few years really. But this area here is kind of where it all started, part of town. This area has been here sort of as a place mentioned in the documents from the 1500s. So very early on, one of the major areas around the capital area in Helsinki. It's not part of Helsinki, it's Vantaa, but it's always been kind of a satellite in the sense that as the railway came through here, it was one of the first 7 stations in this area. Here's a big hotel that's been here forever as well. So Tikkurila area kind of grew as the railway, and before that a large road, King's Road, going through here towards other major cities meant that there was a busy market, and a lot of people would come this way to sell their wares. Even the name of Tikkurila refers to Tikkuri, which is 10 pieces of leather that you would use as a measure of payment or selling things. Here's the old station house, the red brick house here. It's now a museum. And this has been now turned into a sort of a taxi station, I guess. It used to have all the buses, but they now go from these new Dixi shopping center and railway station building. It's a massive undertaking that's been developed here, really changed the area. And since now the trains also go to the airport, there's a ring railway that goes through the airport, and it's made Tikkurila even more one of the hubs where people traveling from Finland will stop by and change to go to the airport. So it used to be more like this even just a couple of years ago, like the buildings ahead of me, the small buildings. And we've gone to this, which is a massive railway building and shopping center, a lot of services in there, including the bus terminal, which used to be behind me. It's a very cold breeze now. It's also raining, so very much winter weather. I'll just let the buses go by and have a look at the Dixi center there. It's about 15 minutes on the fast train if you want to go to Helsinki city center from here. So we're not far, used to be further, but now the trains are fairly frequent, and it's actually a very good place if you are commuting to Helsinki as well. It is really, really wintry weather today, not just grey but also chilly, especially with the sort of 20-degree drop in temperature from where I was just a few days ago. But we will walk through. I have winter gear with me if I need gloves and things. So we've gone from sort of really pretty blue skies to this grey as well, which makes, I think, November one of the not so pretty months. Often before the snow comes, I think there's snow forecasted, possibly even for next week. I think I haven't said where I'm going to go, but the idea here is just to walk through Tikkurilantie and return back to very close to where we were, to an old mill and the Heureka science center. So just basically going to walk through and get a good view of this. Not a huge place, but definitely a sort of town in itself. These new houses also here, kind of very good place to be next to the station, but only very recently built. I think I'm going to go around and make a turn next to the library. This area for me personally is an area I lived in for quite a while, about 5 years or so, from around 15 years old. So it's very familiar to me and also very easy to access now. I think what we'll do is we'll make a left here and walk towards the library and City Hall. So the older building that we saw that was turned into a museum earlier on, I think I forgot to say that it's from the as early as 1862. So that's a fairly long history that this area has. Of course, even before then as a market town for those following the King's Road. I don't know if that's the exact translation that they use for it. It's the one I'm going to go with today. There's a library over here that also houses a lot of other services, at least used to. I remember going here and not only borrowing books but studying here, going to the cafe here, and I think they also have a music studio and things like that. Don't quote me on it, I haven't actually been for a while. This is the kind of grey building over here. Guess we go over there. Here's the cool children's playground. And just need to make a turn to the right there to go and see the library. It's not the most colorful of buildings, but it is really nice inside. A little bit older, of course, having been there for quite a bit. I think in this weather also anything starts to look a little bit I don't know, you lose colors. That's the right word. There are some newer buildings around here as well. The church has been or a new church has been built, the old one replaced. She used to be around this area. It's kind of a cool building. If you look at the architecture, this is a market square that will sometimes have stalls selling sort of crafts and things. Not today. There's the old shopping center, which has really suffered from the new railway shopping center there at Dixi. And the church is right ahead of us there. It's the building in the corner that's kind of a different shape, I guess. But a lot of the churches around here tend to be not very noticeable. And there's some wall art there. And the massive Dixi building. So here's the city hall and the rather nice little water element next to it. It has these things that people have maybe supposedly left that are supposed to be there. And figures. Always kind of like that. And this is the city hall. The little building at the end is a gallery, I think. And then all of this has kind of come up in the last couple of years. It's really changed the area quite a bit. We'll get to some of the little bit more traditional buildings and areas here in a moment. But I'll walk through what is currently the heart of this town. So on the other side here is a sort of pedestrian walking area with still quite a few shops there. A few new places coming up as well, which is nice to see because a lot of places were going and I think it's just been one after the other disappearing from here. So it's really nice to see some new things popping up as well. I'll try to make the light. Here's a look down a rather empty street. There's usually not a lot of traffic around these kind of suburban areas. Especially not on a grey weekday afternoon like today. I've always quite liked this little statue of a bear here. We could go and see his face. He's been there for a while. Oh, it's probably a she, right? Don't even remember the smaller bear there. But it's been nice to see some new restaurants around this area. And even something I think most people didn't expect, which is a very nice cocktail bar. It's just really nice inside. Over there in the corner. The rest of it is rather old. Ei kiitos. Kiitoksia. I unfortunately will not stop doing these videos to have a chat. So I said no thank you, and he said I have a very positive look. Always nice to hear. So some of these places now are serving lunch. That's why you have at least a little bit of people here. And some people still braving the weather, sitting out on the terrace as well. I'm just going to take a look back to where we came from. This is one of the big stores. You'll find grocery stores that sells clothes and all of that as well. Prism. And another one there across the street. And this is telling us that you can go and watch football here when Finland is playing. And if you keep following these streets, you end up in residential areas mostly. To the right would be the public swimming pool. Well, I guess not public in the sense that you do have to pay for it, but it's an indoor pool with a sauna. I say sauna, that's the Finnish way it's pronounced. Sauna, I guess. But just so you know, it's sauna. That's what you should be saying. And it's kind of a nice thing to do when it's cold outside, that you have an indoors pool for mostly just exercise. But fairly popular form of exercise in Finland. You tend to find indoor pools. We call them swimming halls. So you'll see the translation sometimes. Of course, not a very accurate one. Turn to Unikkotie. So Pocky Street. Now make my way through this little bit more residential area here towards the older parts of Tikkurila. The weather kind of makes everything look a bit grey. Even when you have red buildings like this, it doesn't really stand out the same way. but that's November and part of the spring months when it's very dark. There's not a lot you can do about it. You have to jump onto the street here. More construction going on at the side of the old healthcare center, and well, I guess that was actually a privately owned medical practice maybe. In any case, that's been going on for a while. It will have more development following those new buildings we saw earlier. These older buildings must be wondering what's next when the wall of new development is closing in. I'm going to make my way towards the river. We're quite close to Keravanjoki, Kerava River. And around that area we'll find some of the more traditional buildings. There's a fire truck over there. I haven't seen these new ones. That's pretty cool. Oh, there's another one ahead. I wonder if they're just stopping for lunch or they have a... I guess they wouldn't go for lunch with those. Well, who knows? I hope it's nothing serious. Doesn't seem like there's anything going on. Quite like the oak, I think, painted on the building ahead there. It's a new building as well. And you'll see, if you're not familiar with Finland, that a lot of the balconies will have glass covering them, which just makes them a little bit nicer in the winter weather. Very common in Finland, makes it warmer, keeps the weather out a bit. I think those have been done rather recently. And it is very windy. You might hear that. I think I'm actually going to have to open my umbrella. It's raining. And it will be raining. I heard yesterday some people are working on the top of that building. I heard yesterday in the weather forecast what I think was that we've had nice sunny weather and we won't have that until after Christmas. So no sunshine for us here in the north. These buildings, as you can see, also quite new. It's very traditional style, kind of boxy blocks that you'll find in residential areas in Finland. It's a rather windy day today. No cars though. We'll cross. Continuing on would take you to the motorway that you can take to Helsinki or out of the capital area as well. And around here you have some of the new sort of taller buildings as well in this area. And I wonder if it's still here. Yes, there's still a very traditional movie theater in the corner. Only open for some selected movies, I think. It's been a while since I went, but something I remember from my childhood around here. Even when I didn't live exactly in this area, I lived very close by. So that would be a place I visited. And this building here is now a theater. We used to have a kind of second-hand marketplace as well, but it's part of the old oil and paint industry factory that was here, and actually the area behind it has now developed also as part of that, and that gave rise to one of the companies from this area, a well-known paint company called Tikkurila. It's very traditional beginning. And these buildings, the outside of them is still original, I think, the tiles here, but it did burn down, and the original building here is very old. I'll check in a moment, but it's just the sort of basis of this, or these buildings here that are still part of that original. There's obviously some work going on here. So the paint and oil business started in 1860 around here. This is not the current factory of the paint company, of course, it's just something they are developing. And here's the silkkitehdas, or silk factory from the same area, which has also been turned into a sort of newer buildings now. It says offices and the theater. And that was Finland's first silk factory. But it is still very much being developed at the moment. It's just going to be a nice area once it's fully done, I think. It's nice to repurpose those old buildings. So they had the silk factory had 550 people working here. In already 1950s. Kind of just mixing up the two things, but 550 people working in 1950. Next we're going to walk over to the old mill here. And do the riverside, even though it's going to be a little bit grey day for that. It is what Finland is like in November. So it's authentic, if not so beautiful. Here's the theater. I think this is a building called Söderbo, kind of a villa. And here's the old mill that was started here to make flour. It says 1988 here. It has a cafe usually in the summer. Of course, no point staying open when the weather is not that nice and people are not spending time around here. It's a very nice old building around here. There are paths going through here that you can basically take into Jokiniemi, which is ahead of us, and other areas, Puistola, Tapanila. Some wall paintings under the bridge. I think we have to see that dinosaur, or I have to see that. I don't know what's going on in that cup. I think that's Laika, the dog going into space. On the other side of the bridge is Heureka, which is a kind of a science center, mostly for children. I remember going there fairly often with my school. They would have things like dinosaurs, things you can try yourself, all kinds of science exhibitions. Kind of changes now and again. They've had some of the sort of science exhibitions that go around the world. The river will look a lot nicer when there's ice. And of course in the summer, this is a really nice area. Here's someone delivering the mail. I think that's a school class right there, coming out of the science center. That would have been something I've done years ago. They also have a kind of a, I don't know what to call it, rock park with different kind of materials showcased here. Here's the look towards Tikkurila from the other side. Those are all the houses that we started from. And now that I think, I've actually combined the oil factory with the silk factory. So what we saw before was the silk factory. And the paint and oil factory that also has sort of cultural spaces ahead of us here. That's what happens when you don't visit an area for a number of years. I think that's the actual Tikkurila paint factory on the other side, and that's the railway towards Helsinki. Just a little park area that looks a little bit sad in this weather, but actually it's really nice. The buildings of the oil and paint factory, and you can see that's the oil factory because it still has this structure going, a pipe going next to it basically, which would be where they burned some of the materials from that industry. They used to have two, now only have one. And left. So that would be the oil and paint factory, Vernissa, which now serves as a cultural space as well. I'm not sure if it's a theater. I definitely have been there for music, but who knows what's happened in the years I haven't visited. Here's an area you can see from the train. Recognize one of the places where the water usually keeps moving throughout the winter. There's an inner city train to Helsinki coming from further along, so that's a kind of longer distance train. At least it is like Turku or Tampere. So something that's an hour, a couple of hours away or further. There's the bridge and the group of children marching along. They've done their thing. Check that everyone's there. Marching along. I'll walk over to Vernissa right here. I think I'll also close my umbrella because it's really windy. Well, actually, I'm just going to hold it. But it's really windy and it's trying to take hold of it. I guess you can kind of see why I made the mistake at the silk factory. It's a very similar kind of space. It's a culture factory nowadays, whatever that means. But I'd imagine music at least and things like that. It's a very nice space as well. They used to at least have a cafe as well. And this street will take you to Jokiniemi or Hiekkaharju. Jokiniemi meaning river bay. But not maybe necessarily actually. Something along those lines. And just one of the areas around here. Here's to look at the river. They're doing some work over there. I think maybe on the new paths around here. That would be cool. These are really quite nice areas for cycling and walking. Nice to see that area being developed further. There's the sort of more local train that will stop more, take you to the close by areas. And here is the view towards the new development, Dixi. It's massive. I've seen that going up over the years. It's really changed how this area looks. Sorry about that, it's my umbrella. So thank you for coming along for this look at Tikkurila. One of the areas that are very familiar to me but probably don't get featured so much on these videos. Has a really interesting history altogether. Featured in a fight. There was a fight here called Tikkurila battle in the 1980s, around the time of the First World War, but it was part of the Finnish Civil War, and part of the fight was that the railway was disrupted. So it has a really long history that really is often ignored, I guess, because it's now a busy area, satellite to Helsinki. I hope you enjoyed this look. It's been very chilly, kind of raining. It's very much November weather. And if you'd like to see more videos like this, then you probably know what to do. If you haven't subscribed, then you can do that and find out when new videos are published on this channel. So thanks for joining me today, and with a look at this older area with very familiar houses to me because I've lived in those buildings. Not these specific ones, but ones looking exactly like this around the area. I hope I'll see you again soon.